Trevor Boudreau was first elected to Port Hawkesbury Town Council in 2012. He was re-elected in 2016. Both times, Boudreau took the highest number of votes cast for any municipal council candidate in Port Hawkesbury. In March of 2019, Boudreau and his wife Sarah sold their house in Port Hawkesbury, but they continued to be town residents as they rented a home in Port Hawkesbury for 4 months. After that 4-month period expired, the Boudreaus moved into Trevor Boudreau's parents' home in Langley Court until March 24th of this year. At the same time, the Boudreaus moved into a home in nearby Port Hastings that they had purchased in February. Simultaneously, Boudreau filed a request with Port Hawkesbury Town Council to see if he could get an extension to his council term under the Municipal Government Act of Nova Scotia, even though he was no longer a resident of Port Hawkesbury. Port Hawkesbury's Deputy Mayor, Blaine Macquarie, attempted to deal with the situation at the regular monthly meeting of Town Council on Tuesday, April the 7th. At the time, Macquarie pointed out that a motion of council last June would have permitted Boudreau to remain on council for a 6-month period, even if he wound up spending most of last summer at his family cottage located outside of the town. With this in mind, Macquarie called for an amendment to the motion which would allow Boudreau to be able to remain on council for the final 6 months of his term, even though he was now living in Port Hastings. However, when the motion called for a seconder, councillors Hughie McDougall and Mark McIver remained silent, and thus the motion died on the order paper and didn't go forward. Shortly thereafter, CAO Terry Doyle declared Boudreau's council seat vacant, but it was unclear as to what to do immediately after that. Less than 48 hours after Macquarie's motion failed to gain traction at the Town Council meeting, Port Hawkesbury Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Beaton announced that a follow-up council session would take place on Tuesday, April the 14th. This council meeting, available to the public by teleconference, would include representation from 3 members of the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Mark Peck, Ross MacDonald, and Nick Barr. As well, Municipal Solicitor Patrick Lamy gave an update on his assessment of the whole situation, including Council's leeway to be able to allow an extension of Boudreau's council term under Nova Scotia's Municipal Government Act.
The decision is for individual councillors to decide what are the factors in your mind that you feel is in the best interest of the town, regardless of the past, that are the reasons why you would or would not extend the term of a councillor who is no longer ordinarily resident.
However, the concept of simply amending the motion that allowed Boudreau to be able to stay part-time at his family cottage last summer didn't fly with Councillor Mark McIver. Speaking at the special council session on April 14th, McIver suggested that in his view, Boudreau had already used up most of the time that had been allotted to him by that motion, and as a result, he felt that there wasn't room to be able to amend the motion again to be able to allow for another leave.
Councillor Boudreau made the decision to purchase a home outside the municipality, and I guess for this term we've been told many times by staff that this is what the Municipal Act says, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do, and now we're being told that we can just disregard it and do what's right for our municipality.
The second dissenting town councillor, Hughie McDougall, insisted that Boudreau was one of the finest people to ever serve with him at the town council table during McDougall's 19 years of public service. However, McDougall insisted that it would be a double standard to allow an extension to Boudreau when town council didn't grant any such extension to former town councillor Jeremy White, who was elected to his seat in 2016 but vacated it in 2018 just after he moved out of Port Hawkesbury.
If it was asked back then if he was leaving and not returning, the vote might have been different. The intent of that motion was made at the time, and I made the motion, that he was intending to come back. That was the difference between September 18th, 2018, or June 25th, 2019. The exact same 2 motions with 2 different outcomes.
As for the province's role in all of this, the representatives of municipal affairs that took part in the teleconference on April 14th pointed out that they would not interfere with Port Hawkesbury Council's decision on what to do with the vacancy. While they did point out that there would not be a need for a by-election if Council decided not to allow Boudreau back on Council, they insisted that they trusted the work of Solicitor Lamy and were not inclined to disagree with any work by a municipal solicitor. In the end, Municipal Affairs Representative Mark Peck pointed out that it was up to Council to determine what they were going to do with the advice they had received from their legal counsel and from the provincial government.
My main concern is that Council can continue to act in the best interest of the residents, which it's always done and will continue to do so over the next number of months as we get through these unprecedented times. So I think the decision for Council this evening is fairly straightforward. Do you extend or not? And if the vote is yes, so be it. And the vote is no, so be it.
However, when Deputy Mayor Macquarie's proposed motion came to a vote among the 4 remaining elected Port Hawkesbury municipal officials, here's what happened.
All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so we have 2 in favor and 2 opposed, so this motion cannot go forward and it is not approved.
And then, when Mayor Brenda Chisholm-Beaton invited town councillors to find another way to address the seat vacancy, here's what happened next.
Is there any other business with regard to this item this evening?
Move for adjournment, Your Worship.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for adjournment?
Seconded, Your Worship.
Okay, it's been seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Speaking to reporters via teleconference following the special town council meeting of April the 14th, Mayor Chisholm-Beaton said she was disappointed with the turn of events that night. The previous week, on her personal and professional Facebook pages, she had insisted that Trevor Boudreau be permitted to return to town council for the last 6 months of his term, even though he had relocated to Port Hastings. She was also critical of councillors McDougall and McIver for not responding to Deputy Mayor Macquarie's motion that would have allowed Boudreau to come back for 6 more months before the municipal elections in October. However, Mayor Chisholm-Beaton is optimistic that the town can push forward during this difficult time, and she pledged to work with the remaining elected councillors to try to serve the residents best during this time of COVID-19 social distancing protocols. In Port Hawkesbury for Telile 24/7, I'm Adam Cook.